As we navigate the intense changes of menopause, there's often an unseen force at play, one rooted deep in our past. In today's episode of the Menowave Lounge, we're diving into how unresolved trauma can resurface during menopause, affecting mental health, emotions, and even our physical well-being. We'll explore the powerful connection between energy, emotions, and healing, and how releasing trapped energy can create space for true transformation. Stay with us as we uncover the balance of feminine and masculine energies, the potential of Kundalini awakening, and how a trauma-informed approach can empower your journey to holistic healing. Stay tuned and let this be the spark that leads to your own transformations.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations. I'm Coach Robin, and this is Coach Marti, and we are here with Coach Sylvia, and we are going to continue our conversation around trauma and menopause.
Yes, we're excited to have Sylvia back to build on our discussion last week. And just to remind you of who Sylvia is, Sylvia Causo is an anxiety and depression release coach and vital energy activation facilitator. And through her work as a feminine energy activator, she also supports women in rekindling their innate sensuality and nurturing essence, which can often fade due to body image concerns and old emotional wounds. And some of that we talked about last week. By addressing the emotional roots of anxiety, depression, and trauma, Sylvia empowers women to reconnect with their natural feminine energy, an invisible yet vital force that restores confidence, boosts emotional well-being, and enhances intimacy. Sylvia's clients often emerge from her transformative coaching experience feeling more confident in their relationships, more comfortable in their bodies, and more at ease in their lives with a renewed sense of pleasure and joy as they embrace this new chapter of their life with grace and resilience. Very, very happy to have you. Very important stuff we're going to talk about. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Well, so it's great to see you, Sylvia. So I just kind of want to jump in. Because last week was such a really amazing conversation. We learned so much about what trauma is or isn't, or was lack of. It could have been in our younger years, maybe even in our early adulthood, and how that trauma shows up in our menopause journey and things that trigger the trauma, anger flares, old belief systems, all those things that come into play that create the trauma story. So I just kind of want to recap that. Can you give us just a couple minutes of that recapping what trauma is?
Yeah, so trauma is what happened to us. Actually, trauma is what happened inside of us because what happened to us. But also trauma is what didn't happen to us. We're very good at remembering good things that happened to us, but not forgetting the good things that didn't happen to us. So the lack of a fully emotionally present mother during childhood, that can be developed trauma. I can never say this word. Just trauma of the development of the child. I think that is a better way to put it. So yes, there is a shock trauma, can be a war, a car accident, the loss of a parent, abuse of any kind. But also this trauma that is like a drip drop absence of feeling safe, feeling heard, feeling seen at a deep level. And this is what we need. That these are primal needs that needs to be fed when we are children, so we can develop. Because the first 2 years of our lives, we are totally 100% dependent from our caregivers. And we need to get everything we lack from them. If we don't get it, we mold and shape ourselves in a way that can fit in with their expectations of us. And at that point, the brain develops and starts shaping. And if we're in a stress response, if we're in an environment when we don't get hit, but there is two parents that are constantly fighting, we are in a fight or in a flee response all the time. And the nervous systems get shaped, imprint in that way. So cortisol comes up, shapes the way the brain functions, and so on. When we get to perimenopause, the same hormones that are affected during the trauma response as children will be affected by the changes. This is why trauma and perimenopause and menopause are linked together.
And to remind us, how does that show up? What does a woman who has that in her background, as most of us do, how does that show up for them? What in in perimenopause and menopause?
The same way that shows up like anxiety and depression, palpitations, exactly the same symptom. You will experience the same symptoms if you are in a trauma response. Exactly the same. And the
Wow.
same pathways are affected in both cases.
So this is like a negative energy that we've carried from the original trauma into our perimenopause that's getting triggered, right?
Yeah,
And so when we start looking at this in a way that it starts identifying this negative energy and the physical outcomes of that, then we start looking at the dialogue in a different way, the conversation in a different way, because now we're talking about how do we heal the trauma so that that doesn't trigger every time in our menopause journey, right? Can you speak a little bit to what that emotional and energetic shift, how that happens, and how do we heal from that?
Could I interject and just ask a question to go along with that, Robin, is maybe just take a step back. What do we mean when we talk about energy in the first place?
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, I wanted to say that I actually stopped calling fear and anxiety and depression. No, actually, anxiety and depression are expression of some emotions. I'm reframing myself to call them negative because those emotions are actually our bodyguards, like on an alert system. If I feel fearful or if I feel aggressive, angry, means that someone is crossing my boundaries. So I really need to listen to those.
Does that come underneath old belief systems when we get triggered, say an anger moment comes up and it's triggering something from our past? Is that like an old system that's operating to protect us?
Yeah, yeah, because as a child, if you learned to, let's say, if you were the last of five kids, okay, as the only way you could be heard and seen, it was to shout and lash out. There is a protective mechanism. The mechanism is trying to help you to feel safe and loved and seen and heard. But as it worked in the past as a child, it doesn't work in adulthood with adults around you. You can't lash
Yeah.
out every time someone is not listening to you. You need to find other clever ways. So the work that we do when we heal trauma is really to be able to respond to adult life with adult strategies rather than the old strategies that are in print in our subconscious.
I love the way your point of reframing that word of negative from those feelings, because like you said, those are protective mechanisms. Those are keeping us safe. Those feelings, like you said, those are, that's what's what I'm saying. That's a indicator that someone is crossing our boundaries or there's something we take a look at. And so just because we don't like the way it feels or the way the response that it creates in us, and we tie that to the word negative, it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's not. It's actually, hey, this is an understanding of how our nervous system responds, and it's a message. And it's the subconscious mind is always looking out for us. It's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to protect us. It's trying to make things good for us. It's the way that it goes about it and the responses that are ways that we don't necessarily like or prefer. But I really appreciate the reframe of that whole word of negative around the response that we feel. So thank you for that.
And just to give an example, what do we say? Boys don't cry. Now,
Right.
this is a podcast for women, but for instance, that is coming up for me. Boys don't cry. So boys are not allowed to feel sad, or girls are not allowed to be bossy.
Right.
When a man, a boy who is actually speaks their mind out, is a leader, but a girl is emotional, is too much. So it's not just our childhood, so it's society, cultural, generational, everything comes into play. But generally, emotions are in our culture not welcome, repressed, suppressed, pushed down, when in reality, they help us.
Yes. And once we can start identifying what those emotions are that come up and where that negative energy is coming from, then that's the beginning to start healing, right?
Mm.
We're just going to touch a little bit on how to clear that negative energy out. Can you speak a little bit to that as far as this process that we're talking about?
Yeah. So, okay. So this is, as everything in life, there is, you can see things from many different lenses and many different perspectives. And I know that the word energy work or energy healing can be quite big and can be, go into the woo-woo. So I'm just going to try and give you a few examples because it is a complex concept. Yeah. So first of all, have you never been in the room or someone, like I remember clearly someone shouted at me once and I felt it like a wave crossing my body. Something was going through my body, and I was like, wow, that almost like I went backwards. Well, that is energy. We are perceiving someone else's energy. And by the way, emotions are energy in motion towards us. So that one way of describing it. The heart as an energy field, we know that the heart as an energy field, there was experiments. I don't know if it was Joe Dispenza that it is an experiment. They placed like some water in a different room, and from another room they were sending words of love to this water, and actually they seen changes in the structure of the water, cellular structure of the water, just by sending love from one room to the other. The field of our heart is just magnetic. In fact, we say we got three brains. This brain, the heart is another brain, and the gut is a different brain.
Yes.
The nervous system, which is starts from the base of the neck, we've got the vagus nerve that runs along the spine, and from there we have nerves that go around our face, around our chest, and around our belly. When we experience something as children, and then also in life, this vagus nerve will just send signals to every single part of our body. And if it's something scary, we'll start to pump the blood, and the heart will start to have palpitations. Or if we're anxious because we need to do a public speaking, our mouth will just dry out. If we tense, nervous, our jaw will tense. If it happens to me when I travel, I always feel like I need to lube every single moment. It's not because I do need it, because my nervous system is activated and I feel like my womb area is activated, my intestines are activated all the time. That is a nervous system, that energy going through our body, pumping different hormones, activating different areas of our body. The other example I like to use for this work is, we have muscles, and muscles are covered in fascia, which is a very thin layer of skin. You'll see if you're not vegan or vegetarian, you'll see that skin. And that is the job of holding our muscles so that it can work properly. Well, that fascia, that texture, that material actually is a conduit for electricity, for energy. So this is what happens when we get an emotion stuck in our body. We'll get stuck in the fascia, and then we'll tense our body.
Well, and that makes so much sense for me. It's kind of like public speaking. The first part of it is always a little nerve-wracking, and then I kind of settle into it. But I can definitely feel the tightness in my tummy. I can feel a little bit of tightness, like in my chest. And that's why I always sit up properly and just release that energy so it just doesn't bundle up in one particular area. I do know that it's going to pass. It's just a little bit of anxiety when I'm doing public speaking. So I completely understand how those two systems really interact and create energy. Speaking of, I see, what is it, where the vibration of the sand, when certain vibration, it makes patterns in the sand, because that positive frequency is causing the sand to move into patterns, beautiful patterns. But then when there's disruptive or negative vibrations, that it's chaotic all over that. And that's kind of how I equate energy, that either I can sense, or sometimes if I know it's welling up inside me because of a memory or something like that, then you can start becoming aware of your own energy, either energy that's coming around you, from you, or something that's inside of you that's welling up from an emotion. It is creating an energy, and that can either affect your health, your body, or it can actually affect other people around you. So if you put out loving energy thoughts, people can feel that, but they can also feel the negative energy thoughts as well.
Absolutely. And this is another way of looking at this energy work. We are made of the 80% of water, and water carries sound, and energy responds incredibly well to sound. So in my energetic work, I use music, and I use the vibration of the sound, and also the energy and the client. Actually, I say every healing is self-healing anyway. I'm not a healer here. I'm just a conduit for healing. I'm just a facilitator. I create a space for people to feel safe enough to feel those challenging emotions that we talked about earlier, or to have the space to really express themselves. I don't do any healing personally. I just learn the techniques, and I create the space for people to be able to do their own work. So in my energy work, that's what we do. We use sound, we use surrendering, and we allow the body to experience itself without the mind being in the way.
That's a good way of putting it, without the mind being in the way, because our mind wants to logically say what's going on. And when you take that out of the way, then the natural process of cleaning out that old energy can take place, right?
Absolutely. And some dialogue between the body and the mind, it's okay. It's okay sometimes, because at the end of the day, there is energy going in our brain as well. But yeah, absolutely. We use our biological mind as well, so much that we overthink. I think one of the biggest things that we do in our society is overthink everything.
Yeah, and like we talked previously on last week's podcast, is that we as humans, we're so taught to disregard our emotions and put them aside, and that there's something, don't be led by your emotions. It's all about logic and facts and all of that. But what people don't understand is that it can so often be a conflict, because the emotions are more powerful. The emotions are going to override your logic every single time. So Sylvia, say a woman has come to you and she's worked with you and she has, I don't know what, healed, for lack of a better term. Where can she go from there that I think a lot of women don't realize? What potential is there, maybe with her sensuality, with her relationships, with her sexual relationships? Do you mind speaking a little bit about what comes after? What really great things can come after that we just don't realize?
I think we skipped over a little really important part, though. I want to go back to what it means to shift the energy out, to clear it, to clean our energy field, so to speak, because we've identified it, that we have energy from our emotions. But then how do we start processing that out? Because that's just not like a one-time thing. It's something that we need to be either aware of, or we need to work with to clean it up. But what does that really mean? And I'd like to go just a little bit deeper, maybe an example of what it means to clean your energy levels.
Okay, so it is about cleaning the energy, but it's more about letting the energy flow. I mean, the work that I do is very, in many cultures call it a different way. You can call it chakras, you can call it acupuncture, you can call it qigong. So it's about flow energy, the energy is that obviously when we have traumatic experience get stuck. Yeah, it's the same energy. It's like almost like a circle. We need to flow the circle of life. Everything you like, like a river is flowing. That's what we want. It's almost like we realigning ourselves with who we are, our soul, our body, in line with healthy, essentially, and this energy that's flowing through us. Because, again, we said it on the first podcast, we're not just flesh and blood, we are more than that. We have religions because we need to believe in something that is just this table and chairs. There is something that we are connected. Even the miracle of Wi-Fi and us connecting from around the world, this is the miracle. This is the same energy, I would say, in a different form or shape, but it is the same energy. Why is it that I can actually do an energetic activation on you, being in the United States, I'm in the UK? How is that possible? There is something
That's a
more
good point.
that meets the eye.
Yeah.
And again, it can also be scientifically described and proven. Beautiful.
So is that the realignment and allowing your energy pathways to flow and to bring in that really good feminine energy that helps to create health in our life and align our thoughts and our emotions? This is how we become unstuck. I believe that once we start identifying some of those areas, then we can begin to understand what it feels like to have a good, clean flow of energy in us and how that helps us in the physical with our menopausal symptoms as well. It's all connected. And I feel like once we can begin that journey of understanding that and becoming unstuck and creating healthy, aligning flows of energy, then we can begin to heal and we'll see that in so many other areas of our life. Is that right?
Yes, what I witness over and over again on myself and on other clients is that, first of all, we need to clear the bulk of our trauma, the things that keep us stuck. And we also need to open the mind up that first of all, we are responsible for ourselves. We need to take radical responsibility that everything is happening in our lives, we are in control of, even if it feels we are not. We heal the bulk of our trauma. And then we can start to tap into this really deeper level, I would call it of spirituality in a way, beyond the religions, that we can feel. I got to the point where I can feel my energy. I can literally feel where my energy field is right now. And it's when we clear our trauma, when we start to heal and realign again, we can tap into this kind of, we say we got two different energies, the masculine energy that flows through our right side, and the feminine energy is the left side of our body. And it's linked to creativity, to sensuality, to their loving and caring nature that women have quite often get shut down, first of all, by a patriarchal society, then by stress, then by trauma, then by generational trauma and conditioning and limiting beliefs. There is a whole pile of stuff on that. So once we start working through these levels, then we can access this energy, this feminine energy that is described as lying dormant at the base of our spine. Some people call it the Kundalini energy. Because I have a very strong trauma-informed background, I'm very cautious how I work with this energy. And I want to feel it's got to be safe. There is some practices out there. I want to name this. They are not trauma-informed. They just go for the shaking, the spectacle, let's say. The spiritual. There is also something called bypassing, spiritual bypassing. When you bypass all your trauma, you can just go into the very high state of consciousness. So for me, it's different. I'll take things very slow. And then we gently awaken this energy when it's ready to be awakened. This is a vital energy. This is something that we haven't built in a lab. It's been there since we were born. So it's an intelligent, loving, mothering energy. So if we care for it like we care for nature, then nature will reward us with its gifts, and the same with energy. So,
and what is this energy called again?
Well, some people call it Kundalini energy.
Connectivity.
Kundalini. Mm-hmm. I just call it vital energy, feminine energy.
Okay. So how do we know when we're in this energy field or level? I mean, is that something that we step into this knowing energy? It's with us, it's projected through us. We feel more empowered
Yeah, this
in
is
our
the first thing
lives.
I experienced is a sense of strength and confidence and empowerment. It's like I'll make my decisions. This is what I think, like really embodying that create energy that feels like it's feeling you from the inside out.
Yeah, like our lioness is coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like this is me. And sometimes can be actually you need to get used to it because we are so used to mold ourselves to the world and to the people around us. And we need to let people around us get used to our new way of being as well.
Yes.
And
And
it's also awaken that sexual energy as well, which is, a feminine quality, absolutely.
yes. And so moving into that topic, how does that, I kind of feel like this might be a little bit deeper conversation that we're having. And I think women have an innate understanding that we do have this energy connection in us. And so actually just kind of talking about this and helping women to understand that they do have this in there. And how does that lioness come awake? We want to see what's blocking that and how can we clear that out so that we can have this good, clean, feminine energy that realigns us, and how can we have it every day, and then what does that mean for our sensual side as well, like what you were just talking about.
I also believe that we have we have a masculine energy, and when we have, for instance, a father wound, something
Mhm.
that happened in the past with our father, we need to heal that for this part as well to be balanced. And we need to heal our mother wounds as well. So it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna wake this up and then it's fine. I think again, it's like alignment. We slowly align ourselves to become the essence who we truly are, which has been modified as we were born and grew up. So it's a process. I really feel like it's a work in progress. And we just almost like we're going in and out until we finally in this perfect alignment. Maybe the day that when we're 99 years old, we're going through a different life. But it's a work in process. So the way I experienced it, and this once you're working this energy is so healing for the womb area.
Mm.
I have experienced many times that when I've done an activation on myself, I could feel the womb area activated physically. And I decided to go for that option. But since this work, my periods are regular, as if I'm 30-year old. I really feel and health coming through my body, especially in the women. My abdominals, it feels strong. The core feels strong, and without doing anything. I go to the gym, but before I started to go to the gym seriously, my personal trainer, what have you done still? I said, I haven't done anything. Apart from doing this intensive work, because I went away and I did some intense work on myself, I didn't do anything. I didn't change my diet. I don't drink well. I don't eat well. I haven't been exercising. And yet I had this strength that was coming through me. And I said, oh, wow, is this the power? I cannot quantify it. I cannot scientifically prove it, but this is what's happening to me. And this is what happens to the other clients.
Yes, I love that when we start recognizing that energy that we have, it brings people in, it attracts people, and people notice it. And it's not that we're trying to do anything differently, it's just that we're feeling differently. And
Mm.
I love that energy. And you're right, it is something that is a process. It's not something that just happens, overnight. It's that inner reflection, it's that inner work that we're doing in order to unblock those areas in our life. And sometimes we need help doing that because we can't get out of our own way or really see what that history is. And so when we work with women like Sylvia and Marti and myself, we are wonderful people to partner with in order to gently start working through those energy blocks in order to heal and become, finding that that powerful energy level inside of you, and being able to help to maintain it. It's more there, it's more refreshing, it's more powerful. It helps with our physical needs as well. And I just love how these two pieces come together, the physical and the emotional and the spiritual. It really sets the foundational tone for the rest of our life when we start bringing them and aligning them together.
And going back to Marti questions that before she asked, what, when we healed our trauma, do we go next? When we have anxiety, depression, and we caught up in our stories, we don't have a vision of the future. Well, our priorities are feeling better. If anything, we have a vision of, I want to feel calm and peace and, and happy. That's all we see. But once we start to clear and heal the trauma, then we have space to have a vision, to reinvent ourselves, to create something completely new, maybe to let go of some relationships, to some situations. And this is where the feminine, the empowerment, the feeling confident within comes to play very big time, when you can start to create something new, because you're not carrying the garbage from the past. You have space to put something else in your life.
Yes.
And
And that's
then
another thing too, is clearing out space of the old trauma and junk. You open yourself up to creating new healthy pathways and new healthy relationships, and seeing yourself in a different light, having that respect for yourself and that love and that care and that compassion for who you are. And once you can start taking care of yourself, then you can start taking care of or being a part of everybody else around you. That energy comes out. And I don't mean to be a caretaker. It does reflect in your everyday life and the people you interact with when you take care of yourself on the inside.
And the thought that I wanted to share before it completely flies out my brain is, like you said, Sylvia, when you can get past that feeling of just wanting to feel better and not feel bad anymore. And so you're in that space where that feminine energy, that Kundalini, can rise. With that comes the creativity, comes the creation energy. Then we can look to the future. We don't have as much saying, oh, you can't do that, or that's stupid. All the millions of reasons why we don't deserve this, to live our lives this way. We don't deserve to have these wonderful things. We don't deserve to dream. But when that's gone, and I know with my own self, because through the work that I've done, is without that voice, or without all of that telling me all the reasons why I can't, it's so much more fun to create and to dream of how I want my life to be, how I want my future to unfold, how I want my family to fit in, and being able to let go of the need to control the way that unfolds. It's such a freeing feeling to say, okay, well, here's how I want to feel. Here's what I want my life to be, but to let go of the need to say, well, it has to unfold with this event and this event and this event and this event. And because if something doesn't go that way, something better, I allow that something better to come in, a different way that is going to be beyond my wildest dreams, if that makes sense. When I can start to let go of the control of how. And I really believe, from what you said and what my own experience has been, it's that is much more difficult when you haven't done the work, when we haven't allowed that energy to unfold and rise within us. When we're carrying this old stuff, it takes energy. I was doing a live the other day about how much time we spend when we want something, leave a job or buy something or invest in a training or whatever. How much time do we go back and forwards saying, I want this, and we feel like, oh, expansive, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then the fear comes in, oh, am I good enough? It's going to cost me. It's going to make a mistake. I'm going to be judged, what people think of me. How much time we spend in the same hour going back and forwards and wasting energy, time, space, and often health, if it's a decision about leaving a relationship or not leaving a relationship, for instance. How much time we spend in that? And when we can make decisions much more quicker, because we don't have to buy into the belief system that was created as children, then we can move freely. I mean, this is a long life journey, isn't it, really? Because we always hit to different levels anyway. It's so worthy and wonderful. And the gift for me is
my children witnessing me from the outside. It's
Yes.
them seeing what I am doing now, that I'm freeing myself. I can be more courageous. I can be more spontaneous. I can be more authentic. Freedom, authenticity, and respect are my three biggest values. Authenticity is there the top one. Yeah.
Right. Well, that goes to, living our authentic life. And what does that really look like to be authentic in who we are? And that means shedding these facades of what we're supposed to look like and actually break free into freedom of being who we are and realizing the amazingness that we have it just within ourselves. And that should be bubbling up every day, and we need to be able to tap into that very, very cool energy that of who we are. So that's amazing. This is such a great conversation, Sylvia and Marti, and I know we could probably go down into more of it, but I want to just kind of bring it back around for some final thoughts. And I I want to just take away from this is for women to have this awareness, to start a conversation with yourself, to be able to look at your inner life, your energy life in a different way, so that maybe we can start recognizing that there are places that are stuck and that we can do something about them in a way that is supporting us on an emotional and spiritual level. So those are my final thoughts. Marti, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, for women who are listening to this, and if this resonates, if it's hitting you in a certain place going, oh, that sounds interesting, but I'm not sure, I encourage and even challenge you, as I've had to do, as many we all have, to go into it with an open mind and an open heart and some curiosity of, well, what is this? What is ready to be released? And what does that feel like after that's gone? And like we've mentioned earlier, and I've mentioned earlier, so many times we want to keep control and keep that down, and we don't want to go look into those dark spaces. And you don't necessarily even have to identify what it is. It's more of a feeling of that release, that energetic release of what that is. Go into it with an open heart and open mind and curiosity of what comes after. Like Sylvia mentioned, all these wonderful things. We talk about these wonderful, we allow ourselves, when we're able to move past and get back into that energy flow where it's flowing within, where that feminine energy is flowing, there's a lot of good stuff beyond that, beyond our wildest dreams that we couldn't even articulate or even imagine. And with that, like I said, with me comes the ability to let go of the control, to need to know how that unfolds. Yeah, I have an idea of how logically I think it might unfold, but when I can let go of the how, it's amazing. It's really kind of cool to see and experience what comes next.
That's awesome. And Sylvia, any final thoughts for you that you'd like to share with us?
But first of all, I want to invite the women to consider that the work that we do here, the three of us, and I guess many others on the care providers directory, this is not just talk therapy. We are going deeper. This is like somatic in the body work and really in the hearts and the soul. So it's not just about talking about stuff. You're going to process in a different way. And I also want to invite them to think about the first people in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I always, in my mind, I'm going to be living until I'm 100 years old. So I wish that for everyone in good health. So I want you to think about the first four decades, 5 or 6 decades of your life. How did those turned up? And how do you want to live the next 6, 5, or 4 decades of your life? And if you want something different, then you need to do something different now.
Well said. Sylvia, do you just work with the women in the UK, or do you work with women all over the world? And how can we reach you?
I work with anyone. I have clients in Australia and the United States and Europe and the UK. So I just adapt to the time zones. And my website is sylvia.com. And I'm also obviously on a Menowave directory as a care provider. I'm on social media. And what else? I don't know.
Those of you who are watching and listening who are members of the Menopause Support Group on Facebook, you can reach Sylvia, me, Robin, and any of our other care providers. You just go to the list of, we're moderators, and you can reach out to us there as well. as well as find us on, like Sylvia was saying, the menowave.org directory and all the other places. So we're so glad to have you, Sylvia. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing your wisdom with us. I
Yeah.
loved it. I feel very uplifted. I'm excited to go into the rest of my day.
Yes.
Thank you
Oh,
for inviting me.
yes, this is such a great conversation, and I think that I hope it has inspired women to look deeper and to connect. Once again, I want to say that Menowave has a retreat coming up in Sedona, Arizona, November 4th through the 7th. There's a link below to check it out. You will be able to meet like-minded women. Our care providers are going to be having amazing mastermind classes. So definitely, if you need to reset, recharge, go check that out and find out what the retreat is all about and go and enjoy Sedona, Arizona. It's an amazing energy place. All right, everyone. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Sylvia, again, and thank you, Marty. And this is the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations. All right.
Thank you for joining us in the Menowave Lounge. If you'd like to connect with Marty, Robin, our guests, or any of our expert Menowave care providers for personalized advice and support, head on over to our website at menowave.org and fill out an assessment that will match you with a provider who knows just how to help. Remember, you don't have to face menopause alone. Our team is here to provide the guidance and care you deserve. So, take that step towards reclaiming your well-being and connect with a Menowave care provider today. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Menowave Lounge, Hot Flashes and Cool Conversations.